Okay, the 5 types of easements: express, implication, strict necessity, prescription, and estoppel. These are easy. Let's talk about express first. What do we need for an express easement? That's right, a writing. What does it have to do? Describe the property, express the grantor's intent to create the easement, identify both parties, and it has to be signed by who? The grantee. The grantee. This is unlike a deed. The grantor has to sign the deed. The grantee has to sign the easement. We need a writing. We need the intent. We need the identity of both parties. We need it signed by who? The grantee. Writing, intent, parties, signed by the grantee. What does the writing have to do? Describe the property, express the grantor's intent, and identify both parties. So let's put that all into one rule script. An express easement is created with a writing that, 1, adequately describes the property, 2, expresses the grantor's intent to create an easement, 3, identifies both parties and is signed by the grantee. Okay, remember, we can be an express grant or reservation, and a reservation can be for the benefit of a third party as well. Okay, next, an easement by implication. Okay, an easement by implication is reasonable necessity. Reasonable necessity. An easement by necessity is strict necessity. Otherwise, they're pretty similar. Easement by implication: prior unity, prior use of land consistent with the easement, continuous and apparent at the time of sale, reasonably necessary for use and enjoyment of the dominant estate, the land that benefits from the easement. What do we need? Prior unity, prior use consistent with an easement, and it was continuous and apparent at the time of sale, and it is reasonably necessary. So we need P for prior unity, P for prior use, C for continuous and apparent at the time of sale, and R for reasonably necessary. Implication: reasonable necessity, prior, that's right, unity, prior, that's right, use of land that's consistent with an easement, continuous and apparent at the time of sale. Okay, strict necessity. This is always when something is, that's right, landlocked. That's why the easement is strictly necessary. That is the only difference. Prior unity, prior use, continuous and apparent, strictly necessary. Implication: prior unity, prior use, continuous apparent, reasonably necessary. Necessity: prior unity, prior use, continuous and apparent, strictly necessary. Easy stuff. Okay, an easement by prescription. It's just like adverse possession, except without the exclusive part. So it needs to be actual, hostile, open and notorious, continuous for the statutory length of time. Actual, hostile without permission, open and notorious, people can see it, continuous, and for the statutory period. What are those things? Actual, A for actual, H for hostile, O for open and notorious, C for continuous, and statutory period. And it doesn't have to be exclusive. So what are the elements of adverse possession? Actual, hostile, open and notorious, continuous, and exclusive for the statutory period. Here, it doesn't have to be exclusive. Other people can use that road or whatever. Finally, our easement by estoppel. Estoppel, what is estoppel? Detrimental reliance. So we have prior permission to use the servient estate, reliance to that party's detriment, and it's equitable to recognize the existence of the easement. Okay, prior permission to use the servient estate, reasonable reliance to the party's detriment, and it is equitable to recognize the existence of the easement. Okay, an easement by estoppel is subject to the equitable defenses, but we will talk about that later. When does this come up on the bar? When we have a landowner who grants someone the right to use a road on their land. and they use it for 20 years, right? Or 10 years or whatever. And then Mr. Landowner dies and his daughter takes over, and she puts up a fence to block that person's use of the land. Okay, well, did that person have prior permission? Yes. Did they rely on it to their detriment? That's going to be fact dependent. Is there another road they could use, right? Would it be equitable to recognize the existence of the easement? If so, we have an easement by estoppel. And those are the 5 types of easements.